What's up, guys? It's Lionel the Builder back again with another video. Happy to be back, man. It's been about 4 days since I shot a video. Earlier today, I was watching a little bit of this video called "Why Most Programmers Don't Last." Saw that it was pretty cool. It was pretty good. I'm like, man, it's been a couple days since I shot a video. Let me shoot one. Let me react to it. This is why most programmers don't last. Let's pull it up. This one, and this is by Healthy Software Developer. What a cool name. What a needed name, right? Let's get into it.
From my experience, if you want to last in this career, you got to learn to just bite your lip, write code, sometimes following patterns or using frameworks you don't love, and save the energy and save all that passion for the issues on the project or the architectural problems or whatever it is that are really key and really important to the project, and use your energy there.
That's a hell of an intro. As I speed through this, let me talk about that a little bit, right? Using frameworks and stuff that you don't agree with. I mean, shoot, I'm still pretty new to programming, but on the project that I'm working with right now, which is Firebase, React, TypeScript, we're using ESLint as well to help us get our shit together. And I would say that I can tell already it's not so much the language, it's all of the other issues that you're dealing with. It's the planning of what to build next and what features to include, what features to not include, what's the most important thing before you guys launch the project, or even if it's after it's already been launched. I could tell that additions are going to be very, very key. Like when you're talking about something that I'm doing right now, like building a settings page, all the different options in the settings page, you got general, you got account, you got billing history, all those different, I believe these are the decisions that he's talking about, right? And I would say, yes, that's what most of the importance is when it comes to programming, especially as artificial intelligence gets introduced to the picture. At some point, anybody can code, right? Anybody can code, but what is your decision making like? What is your communication like? How do you handle things when they don't work out, when things are taking too long? But let's see if he starts to talk about that type of stuff.
To you some secret about how to be the best programmer, or just bitching about why it sucks. Well, these people may mean well, but honestly, many of them do not have the experience in the industry to advise you on your career. I've been in this industry for 27 years on over 40 projects, and you can have a long and healthy career in software development, but you may have to stop complaining about some things that other people do, and you may have to just man up and do some things differently than other people have told.
Man up. I love that. I love that idea. Man up. A lot of people out here bitching and complaining, right? Shout out to the salt lamp in the corner, man. I'm admiring the setup here. It's very like movie like color tones and scenes here. This guy's got to be, I know he's a software developer. I think he's a musician as well. I see some musician equipment and very much video type of dude.
Told you. Here at Healthy Software Developer, I like to talk about 4 things: career progression, working healthy, finding purpose and meaning through your work, and escaping the corporate grind. This episode today is specifically to help you with career progression. And so I'd like to share with you 8 laws to having a lasting career as a programmer. If you follow these laws,
great editing, audio crispy with no microphone in sight,
you're going to move ahead way faster than a lot of other software developers, and you're actually going to be able to stay healthy while doing it, which is the point of this whole channel. The first law to having a long and healthy career in software development is to embrace your imposter. We like to complain in the industry all the time about imposter syndrome, and it's a real psychological thing that some people have. But I think we often claim that we're experiencing imposter syndrome, and we're not. We're just programmers. Let me give you an example. Myself, again, after over 40 software projects, every project I joined, this includes the project I worked on last year, For the first 3 months of that project, I'm swimming in frameworks I'd never seen, patterns that are maybe somewhat new, weird aspects to the business I've never encountered. And yet everybody on the team wants to pretend that they're so experienced that they know exactly what's going on. But, if you're actually really intelligent and you have any sense of self-awareness, you're going to know I don't know everything that's going on the project. And I think if you can become comfortable with that and just accept that that is part of the job, you're going to have a long career in software. Now, if you don't like that, you're probably in the wrong position. The second law of having a long and lasting career is to make technology.
On that first law, I would agree. I agree, although thinking about it, man, how am I? It's too obvious. Like, everybody knows I'm a new developer, technically. Like, what year do you not become new anymore, though? Because, shit, I've been professionally since January, right? I think that was my first month, was January of this year. Of course, I was spent a year and a half learning to code, but and freelanced as well, so that's got to count. But in a professional environment, using GitHub amongst a real team of developers, I'm on just my third month. So, of course, imposter syndrome is something that's like overused, myself overusing it included. But I do think that that's great advice because, hey, just embrace the challenge, man. Embrace it. And that's how I look at everything that I do when it comes to programming. I don't expect things to work out. Whenever I make any change to the project or any change to the code, or I'm tasked to implement something automatically before I hit Control S on VS Code and it recompiles, I'm like, okay, here we go. But that's a great tip though.
Just stupid simple. What I mean by this is most of technology just stupid simple. What I mean by this is most of the people that you're going to work with over your career are not going to know the code as well as you. Even if it's other devs on your team, if you're working on some feature and let's say you're the only one who's working on that aspect of the API or, using some third-party library, of course, you've read all the documentation, hopefully, at least applicable to what you're learning. You've gotten in there, you've written the code, you know it better than anyone else. Well, I think some of the
He said, of course you've read all the documentation. Wow, I've heard that like most developers do not read documentation. So I think that that's worth pausing and commenting on, myself included. I need to go back and redo all of React's documentation since I'm using that every day now. And I remember my lead developer told me that if you become one of the few who read documentation, that it will be your superpower. Read documentation more so than you Google, more so than you chat GPT, more so than you Stack Overflow. Before you go ask any questions on any of those three things I mentioned, did you read the documentation? It'll save you. Especially that's the first thing that's going to get updated.
some of the worst programmers I've worked with, and I've run into people who are 20 years into their career and they still do this, is people who communicate with others as though they know the same amount as them. And if you want to have a really long career and enjoy it in software development, a superpower is to be able to take technology, patterns, concepts, practices, code, and dumb them down. No offense intended, but way simplify them so that the average anybody can understand what you really mean.
A musician.
The third law to having a long and lasting career
That was kind of random, wasn't it? Entertaining, but
in software development is you have to learn to buffer and delay any commitments that you give to people. I would love it if every project that we get to work on in our career is for some super agile company that requires no estimates and there's no deadlines and there's no commitments. But hello, that is not the reality that the vast majority of developers are experiencing. And you may be surprised to hear that if you're one of the lucky few.
by buffer, of course, he means extend deadlines and commitments beyond what you even imagine. When they ask you when is something going to be completed, you're automatically going to probably think of the day and then want to impress them by giving a little bit sooner. Like, man, but if I really get scrappy by 2 weeks, you know, I am guilty of that myself, and I think it's through trying to impress them. But then what ends up happening is you burn yourself out trying to stay up until 5 in the morning and fix something. You know, you get stressed out, you get burnt out. Buffer. You want to do that the other way. What do they say? Under promise and over deliver or something like that, right? He said for that, buffer and delay commitments. I think that's a very very good point.
You who's on a really great agile, prize to hear that. If you're one of the lucky few who's on a really great agile, project where there's no estimating and you're just doing things based on customer feedback. But for the rest of us, we have to estimate, we have to give out some sort of idea of how long stuff's going to take. And, if you watched any of my other episodes, or again, listen to them as a podcast, you know that forecasting in software development is one of the most unreliable things. And so if you want to have a long career and keep a good reputation, you have to deliver on your commitments. And the only way to deliver on commitments, if you're in an industry where committing to things and estimating to things, is low reliability, is to buffer the living hell out of your estimates. Now, this might feel icky to you. Well, why should I add 20%, 40%, 60% to an estimate? Because if you're dealing with management who don't understand that, and you come back and tell them that you discovered some, unforeseen complexity, and they start to blame you as though you're not a good programmer because you couldn't have predicted the future, they don't care that that's an aspect of software development that's unique. So if you want to have a long career in this industry, you got to buffer your estimates. The other thing you got to do is you got to delay commitments. If somebody asks you to estimate something, and let's say it's in a framework you've never used before, I like to use what are called research spikes. You've probably heard of this. It's basically you tell your client or the company, okay, I'm going to spend, let's say, 16 hours over 3 days investigating this task that you've given me because this one's of high ambiguity. I don't feel like I know enough yet to even give you a reliable estimate. And so you tell them, I'm going to spend 16 hours and I'm going to come back to you and I'm going to tell you if I know enough yet to give you an accurate estimate, or if I even may need more time. Now, people don't love hearing this. They just want to shove you into committing to stuff you've never done before. But I learned this as a technique as a consultant, and it can really get you out of a jam if you just try it. And you really will start to set expectations with your company or your client that, hey, I don't just commit to stuff because you want it. If I'm uncomfortable, it's going to cost you something. I got to dig into it and look at it first. And I may even find out we need more time than I estimated just to estimate what we're going to build. The fourth law of having a long...
I love that idea, man. I really do like that idea. I'm thinking of one particular time where I was asked when are we going to be ready, right, to launch, and I didn't know. And I felt like I'm so far down, zoomed in on one issue that we're working on that's coming down the pipeline. I don't know. For one, you have to ask the managers that, right? And for two, even if I was a guest, felt super it felt very much not right for me to even try and say when our entire project would be ready to deliver, because I'm so far down the pipeline and working on little tasks that are handed to me, and I zoom in on these tasks. That would be a big zoom out. But now where I'm at today, I have a much better perspective. At the time, I was literally brand new, and I'm so glad that I didn't just throw out something there, because it would have been dishonest and untrue, and probably would have came back to bite me later. So I think sometimes it's better, like he said, to say you're going to come back and answer that later, or do like I did and just don't answer at all. But we talked about it. We talked about it after I didn't answer the email, but then in a meeting it was brought up, and that's where we talked about it a bit. Very
lasting career in software is to skip the leveling grind. Oh my gosh, so many of these tech companies have software engineer 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, senior engineer 2, 3, 4, 5, staff engineer 1, 2, principal engineer 1, 2, 3. If you work for one of these companies, it may feel like you're progressing in your career, but here's the reality. These companies are dangling you along and keeping you running on a treadmill for as long as possible to just get to the level of a title that you're probably at. If you've been at a company for 3 years, 4 years, and you're still not senior engineer, or maybe let's say 6, if that's because they're giving you, junior 1, junior 2, junior 3, remember, you should not be getting promoted because there's a specific rung you have to go through. You should be getting promoted because you're doing work at the level of seniority across the industry that title is associated with. So if you want to advance in your career and have a lasting career, you want to honestly pick up skills as quickly as possible where you can actually demonstrate that you're operating at a senior or above level. And one of the biggest things that people do that prevents them from doing this is job hopping. Yes, you can potentially make more money if you hop a new job every 2 years. But here's the thing, you're never really learning enough about the business you just worked for to really understand more than just kind of the bare minimum of a 2-year stay at a company of how to actually support that business with technology. You're just kind of a coder for hire. And if the purpose of your career is to make as much cash as possible, that may work for the first third to half of your career, but I'm going to talk about in a moment how it's actually a really destructive strategy. And if you choose to fall into that, the longer you stay in this industry, the harder your job is going to be. The fifth law of a really long and lasting career is you got to pick your battles wisely. You're going to be on projects, and you're probably experiencing this now, where your tech lead or an architect or some other senior developer has a real strong opinion as to why the pattern that you chose in code or some, coding pattern is not the best one, or this library isn't as good as this. And earlier in my career, I'll be honest with you, I used to just fight tooth and nail, just fight people. If I knew, in my hardest of hearts that this was the better pattern, I wasn't going to let you get away with it. I was going to, lean in and make sure I provided as much documentation and really convince you of it. And I tried to do that with everything that I found that I felt like somebody wasn't making the best decision. And it was friggin' exhausting. That's not a way to have a lasting career. So I just want to tell you from my experience, if you want to last in this career, you got to learn to just bite your lip, write code, sometimes following patterns or using frameworks you don't love, and save the energy and save all that passion for the issues on the project or the architectural problems or, whatever it is that are really key and really important to the project, and use your energy there. Not only are you probably going to have more energy then, so you're going to be willing to, put together presentations or write code samples or, do whatever it takes to convince all the other people when you do have to, bring them along, but you're going to have more peace because you're not going to be constantly fighting people. You got to let some of these preferences that you have for coding just go if you want to have a long and successful and healthy career. The sixth law of having a really long career in this industry, if you want one, is always be networking. If you're only networking when you get an idea that, I think I might need a job soon, there's layoffs, by then, you're now competing with everybody who just got laid off. The job pool is more tough. These days, you need to be networking all the time. I think LinkedIn is one of the best platforms for networking. A lot of people don't know how to do this. I help, my career coaching clients with this. This is just a skill that I think we all need to have. But I think every week you need to be spending at least a couple hours, minimum one. You could spread it across the whole week, finding new people that work in the tech stacks, the technologies, the industries that you enjoy. They're at the companies that you'd maybe like.
I guess this takes care of my networking, right? Start a YouTube channel. I used to be a super LinkedIn person and also in-person person. That's actually how I got into my position. And over at the Digital Builders, I'm always talking about networking as the key. And I work within the startup community. I work for a startup right now. I used to be a startup founder. That is actually what inspired me to take develop the being a developer and a software engineer serious, because I saw our value in that place. Every single company's biggest bill was usually the development and the developers, right? And it definitely was going to be ours. So I went from being a founder to like, wait a minute, I need to do what they're doing over there. And the cool thing about that is that you can build whatever you want to build once you get dope at it, right? But I have, admittedly, I've kind of fallen back. I haven't made a LinkedIn post in I don't know how long. When I used to do that every single day, and not, but I do events. You know, I like speak at events, and we're doing the spring social over there, Cinco de Mayo. I'm doing a lot right now, but I definitely should have known that networking was going to be one of the laws, and agree there. And I got my that's how I got it hired, 100%. It wasn't me applying on Indeed or anything like that. That wasn't working out for me.
You like to work for, and open a conversation with them, interact with their content on LinkedIn. Now, I'm not an advocate for wasting time on LinkedIn. In fact, I'm pretty anti-social networking, if you actually have talked to me personally, let's say, and know me. But the reality is, if you want to be in a position where if your job starts to suck or there gets to be layoffs or you need to move on, you can do it with the least stress. You need to always be building relationships with new people and staying on their radar so that if new doors open, you're the first person they ask. The seventh law to having a really long and successful and healthy career in software development is know when you are the code monkey. If you're on a project and management looks at you simply as an engineer, I want you to write code. That's the main thing I'm paying you for. I've seen a lot of engineers, and I fell into this too, where we will fight management, or we will fight product management, or we will just try to cram ourselves into strategy and business conversations because we want to have an influence on the business. We want to maybe have an influence on the user experience. But if we got hired into a company and we got signs during the interview that the main reason that they want us there is just to sling code, that's really all they're looking for in success from us in the position. So you need to know when you're at a company. You can figure this out once you've joined, or you can ask some really good questions going into it. Am I about to join a company that looks at developers as people who should have input on the product direction, the business, the design, things like that? Or am I not? And accept the situation. You know, if you're at a company and you're really frustrated because they don't want to take your feedback, one of the worst things you can do for your personal stress levels and your health is to try to fight against something that's just not in the nature of how they're looking at the position. The better thing to do is you got to either completely accept it and be okay with, like, I'm a code monkey here. That's how they look at me. I write code. Or move on.
Damn, I'm the code monkey, man. That one really hit home. I'm really just the code monkey. I've tried to like throw input, on like different ideas and stuff that I've had, and they kind of told me like, "Hey, man, we got this over here. We got this." Damn, that's good advice though. If for success, right? Why don't I focus on that and just do that as good as I can, as dopely as I can, deliver with speed and like accuracy and build things that work perfect. Like who cares? Like I don't need to be telling them how to sell the product, I guess. Damn, that's real.
And the eighth law to having a really long and lasting career as a developer is get out while you can. I've met people who are 20, 30 years into their career, again, around the level of experience I have, and they're still going out on the open market and trying to sell themselves as an individual contributor. And they have a list, 10, 15 frameworks long of all these different programming languages and frameworks they've learned. Here's the problem with this. Most companies do not know how to value experience. They don't. They look at people as, if you're a developer, my main thing I care about is, do you know the current tech that I need you to know? Are you relatively experienced in just that tech? And Are you at the seniority level that I feel pretty confident we can pay you the market rate? That's it. I've tried for years to sell myself on all these years of experience in other languages I have, and it never goes anywhere. And this is partially why when I work with people on helping them with their LinkedIn profiles, for example, I help them just nuke anything, get rid of anything in your profile that talks about stuff that you're not going to actually want to do. It doesn't matter to employers anymore. It doesn't matter at all. You need to make it, brain dead simple that they're reading that and they just see you as, wow, super strong candidate for what I'm looking for. The problem is, though, people look at that as, well, if I do that, now I'm selling myself short. That's right. Because again, companies don't understand that. You need to put yourself out there if you're still wanting to write code, is that you have new skills that your average programmer doesn't. You can build consensus with people. You're a better communicator. You're okay giving presentations. If you still sell yourself as, I want to make top dollar in the industry, based on just being a 20-year, even 10-year developer, and you don't have any skills around leadership, management, again, consulting, something that increases your value proposition. The older you get, I hate to break this to you, the harder it's going to get for you to continue to make the money that you think you're worth, and also to just pass all these stupid tech interviews and all the other crap that we get thrown at us that becomes just that much harder. The longer you work in the industry, the harder of a job you have, and the less time you have to actually not study and just rest so you can have a life. Well, what do you think about these 8 laws? Do you agree with them? Do you disagree? What are some of the things you've done in your career to help you last longer than other people? And if you're new to the industry, are you worried about some of these things? Has what I've told you today hopefully encouraged you a little bit to just see this is what the job is? If you're okay with this, you're going to kick butt. I think you're going to be a great developer. If you fight against this and you try to pretend this isn't true, and you go out there and you watch other people's videos or listen to other people's podcasts that tickle your ear and tell you that all you have to do is be a really great coder, I hate to break it to you, it's not true, and you're not going to last very long. So leave me some comments. Let me know what you think. Until next time, thanks.
Hell yeah, man. Awesome dude, man. Nice guitar playing and everything. I love the perspective there. Definitely feel like as a junior I have learned a little bit from watching that. So thank you. And there was nothing really in there that I disagree with, and some things he brought to my attention that I wasn't thinking about. So I really appreciate that. But yeah, I'm headed to Florida here for a few days, so won't be shooting for a while. But like, share, and subscribe. Everybody, drop a comment. I'll see y'all on the Discord. Join Discord.com. That's going to be in the description as well. I'm Mono the Builder. I'm out. See you next time. Peace.